So today we're going to be doing some deep stretch yin style body positivity yoga. I dropped a little message in the chat box below, and I'll typically do that a couple minutes before class start time each class. Just let me know if you have any particular requests, parts of the body you'd like to stretch, or favorite poses, anything like that, and I will incorporate that into our class today. So for the class, you're going to want a place to practice on. So a squishy yoga mat is great, or even for yin, just a blanket on the floor. We won't be doing standing poses, so you don't need to worry about having grip. You just want to be comfortable on the floor. So have something for that. And then have some pillows, the more the better, around you. So couch pillows, bed pillows. If you have yoga props, so if you have bolsters or yoga blocks, those are great. But don't worry about it. Just have some stuff that you can put under unsupported body parts as we practice. So I'm going to give you guys just a couple minutes to settle in, and I'm going to just get a little closer to the computer and watch the chat for a minute or two. If you have any other questions about stuff you might need, oh, one more thing, have a belt. So typically it'll be a good idea to have one of these for every class. We don't always use them, but let me just grab one. The yoga straps are great for just getting body parts closer to us. So we sort of lasso our feet and stuff in different poses. In yin, I will use it rarely, but I do have a pose I might incorporate today that will use this. So have any kind of not stretchy belt or even a necktie, anything that you can use to bring your hands closer together. So it doesn't have to be super long for today's class. So have one of those. And maybe a folded blanket or two, especially if you don't have any firmer pillows. That's great for putting on your body parts for a little bit of support. So I'm going to check the chat, and then we're going to get started in just a couple minutes. My hair clip. See my feet? Okay, we're going to see if everybody's here and if anybody has any questions or requests. Hey, Deborah. Definitely we can work on the area between the shoulders. That's a good one. Thanks for that. So while you guys are getting set up, if anybody else has any last minute tips, I'm just laying on my belly looking at my computer. So just drop any comments down below and I'll make sure to get that into the practice today. I forgot my thing. Okay, so I think we're good to get started. To make sure you have lots of goodies around you and that anybody who's practicing with you has goodies around them. And we're going to get started. So our first pose is just going to be a relaxed pose. So an opening Shavasana just to sort of set the pace for the practice. So for that, you just need to be really comfy. I suggest lying on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat. And if you want to extend your legs but your low back is pinchy, you can put a pillow under the back of your knees. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to use one of my bolsters and minis. Feel free to have water or whatever else you need this morning with you. So just get settled into your comfortable pose. It might take a couple minutes, just maybe not minutes, but it might take a couple seconds of just wiggling and settling. Just sort of get your body where you need to get it to be really comfortable, or as comfortable as you can be lying on the floor. And there's a bit of settling that the bones sort of do, especially along the spine. So let that happen. Maybe move a little with it at first. Let yourself fidget. And then just begin the process of taking up space. And so by that I mean just really allow yourself to expand through the front of your chest and your shoulders, along the sides of your body. Just allow the muscles all around your legs and your arms to soften a little. Allow the muscles around your shoulders and your hips to soften a little. And allow the muscles of the jaw and the forehead to also soften a little. And then let's settle into deep stillness for just a couple of minutes. And in that stillness, start to notice your breath. Without any judgment, just notice the pace of your breath. Notice the depth of your breath. Start to notice the places where the breath feels a little sticky or uneven. And just consciously start to smooth those places out. Maybe lengthening the breath just a little bit. Throughout this practice, I would like you to really pay attention to what's happening with your exhalation. Really tune in to the letting go portion of the breath. This style of practice is really about letting go of muscular effort and really consciously letting go of mental and physical tension where you can. And the exhalation will help us to do that. So really notice what it feels like to let all the breath go in a long exhalation before you breathe in again. Notice how busy or not busy your mind seems this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are. But just notice how much your thoughts are racing or how much space there is between them. And whether your mind is busy or a little bit quieter, bring your attention now to the spaces between each thought. Just notice those sometimes almost barely noticeable little pauses. Take one last deep breath here. And then just begin to move your body a little. So sometimes it's nice to start with just a little gentle rocking of the body, or you can just start in the fingers, the toes, wrists, or ankles. And if you're lying down on your back, as most of us will be, you could just take your chin gently over each shoulder and just gently wake your neck. When you're ready to start to move a little bit more, maybe take your arms overhead for a big stretch. Maybe stretch your legs long, super normal, little yawn, bubbles up. Some of us like to go the other direction and curl one leg or both legs into the body. Rock on your back a little side to side. So whatever you like is perfect here. So when you're ready, what I'd like you to do is to bring your feet to the mat. And I'll show on my body with the mat first. So bring your feet to the mat, just underneath your knees. And we're just going to cross the left ankle over the right knee. So left ankle over the right knee. And just let the knee fall open. And then see what happens if you just relax your foot. And if, like me, you feel like your foot's going to slide off maybe your pants, like mine are a little slippery today, or maybe just you feel like you have to brace or tense to keep your foot there, then I'd like you to grab one of your pillows or a folded blanket and just tuck it under the outer left hip. So something under there. Now, another thing you can do if you don't have a lot of stuff near you is just place a palm right underneath that outer left hip, unless that's going to make your hand go to sleep. So you might have to play with that a little. So either a blanket or a pillow stuffed under that spot, or your hand under the outer left hip. And the other hand can just relax. And just notice what, if anything, you're feeling in your outer left hip. And then if you're feeling too much, then you want to just inch your right foot forward a little bit so that the pose is a little gentler. Some bodies will actually want to have the leg all the way down and the foot down here somewhere. Right? So you want to find your spot. If you want to feel the pose a little more, then you inch that foot forward, or you elevate your foot by bracing your foot onto a stack of pillows, a pillow, or a folded blanket. So this is where I like to do this pose. And the idea here is just to really let go of that left knee, let it hang into space and gravity. Settle into breath. If you feel any tugging or pulling at the sides of the knee on top, then you want to just engage the top foot a little bit. So for that, I would just pull my toes towards my shin a little, reach my heel away a little, and that will stabilize the knee. But if you feel no tugging or pulling at the knee, you're really comfortable, just let the foot stay relaxed. So let's come into deep breath. Again, noticing the exhalation. The challenge with yin yoga is the stillness. We want to fidget and adjust. But the goal of this practice is to find a shape and then to stay in it as still as possible until it's time to make a change, either to pull out of it a little early, go a little deeper, or just take a break. And we'll be here for about another minute and a half. So you have some time to notice what your body's experiencing. Notice where you feel stretch or sensation or intensity. And just breathe into those sensations. Remember the exhale. Take one last breath. And when you come out of a yin pose, you want to move very slowly. So just gently rock your knees away from any props that were under your left hip. If it's your hand, move your hand away. Notice how your hand feels, and that'll tell you if you should use your hand or a prop on the other side. And then when you're ready, you want to come out of the pose stage by stage. So if your foot is elevated, maybe first you just want to get that prop out from under your foot. And then very slowly take the top leg down. And then just start to stretch, because we stiffen up in these yin poses. The body parts get a little tight. So just take a moment to do any kind of movement that you think would feel really good after being still for a few minutes. So we're going to want to do the same pose on the second side. Now I noticed that my hand felt pretty good at first, and then as I came out, my hand did feel like maybe it was just a little too much pressure. So I'm going to grab a pillow for the second side, or a folded blanket. So I like to elevate that hip because I feel like my foot's going to fall off. And in yin, what you want to do is set yourself up in each pose in such a way that you don't feel like you have to tense muscles around the shape. Hi, Mr. Man. This is my little Bruno. Hi, buddy. You gotta go this way. Okay. So coming back to set up the second side, same situation. Now I already know that I'm going to want this bolster under my feet, so I'm going to bring it a little closer. A couple of pillows works just the same, or a firm folded blanket, or a couple of them. So I'm going to elevate my feet first, because I know that's where I'm going to want to be. Now if you're not sure on this side, then start with your feet on the floor. And then we're going to take right ankle over left knee, and remember, same pose if you want to lengthen the leg and take it over the thigh or the shin or the ankle. Just remember not to put any pressure directly on your opposite knee, especially if the leg is extended. So I'm going to let this set and see if it feels like, yep, it feels like my foot's going to fall off on this side. And I'm going to bring that blanket right under this outer hip portion. Yes. Now my foot doesn't feel like it's going to slip. So we're settling into second side. You want to notice again if there's any tugging or pulling at the sides of the knee, and if there is, you want to add just a little flex to that top foot. Remember, we're not using muscular effort throughout this practice, so we're not using our muscles to press the knee forward. We're not engaging or hugging muscles to bones. We're softening all the muscles around all the different joints in the body. We're just letting the shape of the pose do the work. So this pose with one knee over in yin yoga we would call supine swan pose. Supine swan. There's another variation of swan that's a little more common that I might show you later in the practice. We'll see how our timing goes. So again, tune into your breath and the way your body's feeling. And settle into stillness. We're sort of committing to the shape we've chosen, knowing that you can pull away at any time, you can make a change. But once we're set up, we want to try to avoid the urge to fidget and really settle in. Start to notice the places in your body where you unconsciously grip or hold tension. So for me, that happens up in my neck and shoulders, subconsciously relax those. It happens in my hips and around my glutes. Notice where you hold your tension and start to consciously ask it to soften. And notice again your exhalation. Notice muscles tightening around your eyes or your forehead, and invite those too to soften. And one last breath here. And so the urge to come out of these poses really quick is sometimes there. I want you to really move slow and stage by stage come out. So I'm going to first get this folded blanket out from under my hip, move it to the side, roll back, and then I'm going to inch my leg forward and then slowly unwind that top leg. And I've got the bolster there, but I'm going to stretch, roll my ankles, stretch my arms, whatever feels good. There's no rule about how you unwind from a pose or how you unlock. You just want to choose movement that feels nice, or you want to choose stillness if that feels nice. And so we're going to be coming up to a seat after this. So when you come up to a seat after you've been on the floor for a while, it can be really nice to transition your body slowly, and that's both good for sudden changes in blood pressure, but it's also good to keep you in a more soft, receptive space for the practice. So when you're ready to come up, one of my favorite ways from lying down is just to roll all the way over onto your side and just sort of support your head on your arm for a second. And when you're ready to come up, use a hand in front of you just to press up, and then use your other arm to sort of help you come up into what is a comfortable seat. And so we're going to be doing several sitting poses next. And so the thing to know about sitting poses and your body, if your hips are really tight, or the backs of your legs, your hamstrings area is really tight, then you definitely want to sit up on something. If you have some of these folded blankets, any type of folded blanket that's really firm, these are perfect because they won't squish too much underneath you. You'll get some firm support. If you're using pillows, you may need a couple of them. But what we want to do if you're tight, especially through the hips or the backs of the thighs, is we want to elevate the hips. I'll do this sometimes just for more space in my practice, even though I'm not tight in those places. I'm going to use a yoga bolster because it's the same basic thing. You can use pillows, whatever you have handy. And we just want to have something to sit our hips up on. And as a reminder, I don't know if I've mentioned this recently in the live classes, but when you sit up on something, rather than having your whole butt on that thing that you're sitting on, you want to sort of be almost coming off the front edge of it a little bit. And the first shape we're going to be taking is butterfly pose, which is feet together and knees apart. And it's a little scary when you're first setting up this pose, especially if you're sitting on something, because you're like, whoa, man, gravity can feel pretty intense if you take this pose in a passive way, which we're going to be doing. What I want you to do with this shape, though, is bring your feet a little further forward than maybe you would if we were only holding it for a few breaths. And then immediately, when you let your knees hang, just like we did in the previous pose, notice what's happening in your knee joint. So this is the part of the body we want to always keep safe and protect because we don't want to take the knees out to the sides in an uncomfortable way. So I feel a little something on this side. I don't really feel anything on this side, but I'm going to add some support so that I can support this knee. So if you're feeling anything, add some support. So I'm going to grab a block. But again, you can stuff a pillow under either spot. You can use folded blankets. And if I use blocks, I tend to turn the corners in a little. That just feels more comfortable for me. So again, find your spot. And then what we want to do is notice what we're feeling in and around the hips. I'm not feeling anything yet. A lot of us will be feeling a lot. If you're feeling a lot, then you can just relax your arms and either keep your head lifted and relaxed or let your head hang forward. If you want more sensation, you can pull the belly in between the thighs and come forward a little bit. You can rest your hands on the floor, just soft elbows, or you can build a little tower in front of you. I've got some pillows. You can use a bolster for this too. And you can just sort of like make yourself a little pile to come forward into. And I don't like to feel too suffocating. So if you turn your head to one side, just turn it to the other side every once in a while. So find your version of this shape. We're going to hold it for about 3 minutes. And if you start to feel anything digging in, so I'm noticing my blocks are digging in a little, then you just take your props out a little further to the sides. And you readjust, and you come back down. But you want to ideally find a shape that you can settle into and not move too much. So in these shapes, whether you're up, straight upright, whether you're more forward, we're not engaging the muscles. So you might feel some intensity. Sometimes we feel quite a lot of intensity. You want to notice that intensity, and you want to take at least a breath or two into it to decide if it feels like a safe level of intensity or if it feels like it's a little too much. And if or when you start to notice that it's a little too much, then you want to come up a little higher, pull your props in a little bit closer, and do the pose a little gentler. And if at any point that intensity starts to lessen and you feel like, okay, I'm feeling it less, you can choose to go a little deeper. But the key in yin yoga is to make those choices in a conscious, mindful way. And always to come back to your exhale. Sensations we always want to stay away from in this practice is numbness or tingling. Anything sharp, stabbing, burning, or electrical, these sensations we would describe as pain. And numbness and tingling we don't want because we want improved blood flow in the body. We don't want to impede it. So if you're using a firmer prop, like I have blocks under my knees, and you start to notice that they're digging in or the feet are getting tingly, then that's your cue to maybe move those out, switch up for something softer, or see how it would feel with no prop at all, and then dive back into your shape. I love to explore the feeling of sinking in with my exhale, letting go and sinking in. And so one last deep breath in butterfly pose. And just like we did in other poses, to come out, we want to move slow. I like to use the upper body, so bring your hands down to whatever surface is in front of you or beside you, and start to walk your hands up. Now, if you were already more upright, then for you to come out slowly, you want to actually bring your hands a little bit behind you. Yeah. And so start to open up the upper body first, and then move any props out of the way that are in front of you, and slowly extend one leg and then the other, and just notice that like stiff tightness you feel. It's super normal, and just roll out the legs a little bit. I've got a little pile of goodies around me. Just sort of get everything moving. Nice. I like to roll my ankles and point and flex my feet. All that's good. So I've managed to come a little bit off of my bolster throughout that pose. And that's interesting because with your hips sort of rolling forward on your seat, what happens is that as you come forward, your pelvis is actually drawn back. So it's a really lovely thing to happen, as long as it doesn't happen quickly and surprise you. So we're going to stay in seated. So definitely come to sitting back up on your support if you're using a support. And we're going to explore our next shape. So for the next one, we're going to start as if we were setting up that same butterfly pose, just for a second. And then we're going to take the right leg forward, just like that. And I want you to notice what's happening in and around the knee. I'm hyperflexible on my knees, which means I'm sitting up and my knee is actually bending almost backwards a little bit. So I want to put a little something under the back of that knee so it doesn't do that. And that's all I needed to do. We're going to relax both feet. And for this, we were going to bring the body forward a little. You might find you want a pillow handy for that shape. And this is going to get into the back of this leg and still a little bit in the hip on this side. So whatever you want to do or however you want to do it, the goal is to bring the body either forward if you're not feeling enough sensation yet, or to stay up and relaxed if you're feeling tons of sensation. If you're feeling too much, even when you're upright in any pose that stretches the back of the body, remember you can also just lean back a little on hands, and that will make it a little gentler. Yeah. So I'm going to bring my body forward, so I'm a little more open here, and start to fold into this shape. And when I find sort of the spot where I think I'm going to be able to soften and hang out, that's where I'm going to decide if I want to add a pillow or make any adjustments. So I think I'm going to be about here. And my belly's in the way a little, so I'm going to come back up Lift the belly and slide it forward. Oh yeah, that's much better. Perfect. So you may want to just hang out, soften, and let gravity support you in the pose, and that can feel really good if it's not too intense. If it's too intense, then you bring a pillow or a bolster or a prop in front of you, and you get a little bit support so that it's not just gravity holding you up. So find your version of this pose. So in yin yoga, we would call this shape half caterpillar. Half caterpillar. So caterpillar, we have both legs straight in front. That can be really intense for a lot of people. Half caterpillar lets us get into the back of the leg without as much intensity. And we'll just do one side at a time. Come back to softness, to letting go of your muscular tension and effort. Come back to noticing your exhalation. And it's also really useful in this practice to notice and to really be curious about the sensations in your body. There's very little else we do in life where we pay this much attention to ourselves. And so it can be really empowering to say, oh, that feels really stretchy, or that feels really intense, and to just be really intensely curious about yourself. You're going to take one last deep breath here. And then just as before, place your hands down into the floor, into the pillows, whatever you like, and start to bring yourself up. And when you bring yourself up, move any props to the side. Slowly bring yourself back. Oh. And then very slowly extend one leg, then the other. Maybe we want to bring the knees to bend in this particular case and rock the knees side to side. Notice what you need. Notice what kind of movement feels good. Maybe we'll want to roll the back a little bit. Ugh. Whatever you like here is perfect. And then we're going to switch sides. So we're going to start in that butterfly shape, and that's just so we can find the center of the pose a bit. We'll start in that butterfly shape long enough to find that part of the shape. And then we're going to keep this knee where it is, as long as it needs, if it needs any support, add some support. Otherwise, just keep it as it is. And then the left leg's going to come forward. And again, notice if you're hyper or flexible here, you can put something under the back of the knee. This is also a useful trick if you're really tight in the back of the leg, is to put something under here. So the more bent this leg gets, the more slack you get in the back of the hamstring. So if you're real tight, a lot of support under this knee will let you explore the pose without getting too much intensity. I'm pretty open, I just need to protect the back of that knee. So again, find your version of this shape on this side. I'm probably going to do it the same way I did it on the first side, so I'm going to feel out my distance. And notice that one side's usually a little more open than the other. If this is your more open side, you might be able to go further, but it might be better actually to do the more open side a little bit gentler, so you can sort of narrow the gap between your tight side and your looser side. So I am a little more flexible on this side, but I think I'm going to set myself up exactly the same so I don't go too deep. And I won't feel it quite as much, but I'll start to balance out the two sides of the body a little. So I'm going to grab my pillow and create a little support, and then fold into my shape. Did I have 2 pillows last time? Can't remember. Well, that feels like a lot, but it actually is kind of nice. Don't forget that if you're hanging into gravity or just to give yourself some room to feel that depth, you can sit up tall and lift up the belly and slide forward a little and find that shape. You can support the outer right knee if hanging that knee into gravity is uncomfortable. And then we just want to, again, settle in and get still. Really embrace the shape we've chosen and start to notice the way it feels in our body. Notice where you might be tensing. Could be in your shoulders, your forehead, or your eyes. See if you can soften those places and notice what happens to the pose when you do. You might find that you sink in just a little tiny bit deeper. You might feel muscles softening. And we still notice the exhale, that feeling of letting go of the breath. If it feels safe in your neck in these poses, you can let the weight of your head just go. Take one last deep breath here. When you're ready to come up or back, just push your hands into your thighs, the floor beside you. If you're already upright, because your pose is more upright, then bring your hands behind you. Come back a little. When you're up, move your props out of the way. And then very slowly extend that right leg. Oh. And then let's move a little. So I like to bounce the knees, again, roll your ankles, but I really like to come back to these windshield wipers with the knees. This feels really good in my body. Remember, anything that feels good in yours counts, so you can do that instead. Nice. So this next pose is actually a toe stretch, and it's really, really lovely, but it can be really, really intense, and it can also put some pressure on the front of the knees. So there's a few different ways to set it up, but remember that the comfort of the front of your knees is one of the most important parts. Otherwise, this pose is not going to be a good one for you. So make sure you have a soft, squishy blanket to put under your knees, rather than something more firm, like a bolster. That can be a little too intense. If the bolster feels good, by all means, but for many people who have sensitivities here, it feels much better to have something soft and sort of fluffy under the knees. My knees are not sensitive in this spot, so I'm probably not going to prop my knees up, but most people will want something soft or squishy under the front of the knees. This is going to be a shorter held pose, and there's going to be an option to do some stuff with the arms. So you're going to want to have your strap handy, but I'm going to tell you right now that if the toe part is intense, as it is for most people, especially if you've never done this shape before, then you're probably not going to use this at all. So if you haven't done a lot of work in the toes, or you don't know the toe stretch I'm talking about, then don't worry too much about the strap, but have it handy just in case. And we're going to start to set this one up. So for this shape, you actually want to have your knees, you want to start from sort of a hands and knees type shape. I'm going to get my timer set up for our first side. And I'm not going to start it just yet, but it's ready to go. So for this pose, you start from hands and knees, make sure the knees are comfy, and you tuck the toes under. So that's going to be one of the most important parts. And some of our toes won't actually tuck. Some of us, if we're really tight, our toes are just barely tucked in the first couple of them. So see if you can reach back one side at a time and maybe just encourage those other toes to participate a little bit. They might not, and that's all right. And then you want to just start to send your hips back towards your heels. And you might get to about here and go, oh yeah, that's more than enough. I'm going to stop right here. And that's fine. Stop there and breathe. I'm going to start our timer. But for the rest of you who want to feel a little bit more, you're going to come into the pose a little bit deeper. So you're going to start to put more and more weight back. So you bring your hands in closer. Some of us, if you happen to have blocks or a couple pillows in front or some blankets, you can come up on the blocks to go a little deeper, maybe a little higher. If the toes are feeling okay and you're enjoying the intensity, it doesn't feel painful, then you can come all the way up. And finally, if you're all the way up and you want to add the arm stretch, then you're going to lift up your right arm, drop the hand behind you, and hold the strap with that hand. Like that. The other hand's going to come behind and just sort of pull that elbow down a little for a little bit of stretch into the triceps. And we're just going to breathe. And if at any point you're like, holy cow, lady, this is too intense, then please come out sooner. Skip the arm stuff. This is just icing. Maybe just focus on hands on the mat in front of you, sinking your weight back into your heels a little. If you find yourself really tense and tight around this pose, then we want to soften it just a little. Because if we're not soft, we won't get the benefits. We're only here for a few more long moments, so see if you can stay with your breath. Again, if it's too intense, you come out sooner. It's all good. I can't even see you. No, none of us can see you, so you're good. Whatever you need to do or want to do for you today. If you're using the arm strap business, and we're going to slowly bring the top arm down and set the strap to the side. No matter what now, we're all going to start to slowly back out of this pose. Bring your hands forward. Oh my goodness. Come out of the toes, and as soon as you're out of the toes, untuck the toes. Drum the feet on the floor a little bit. That feels really good. Or scrunch and release your toes a little bit. Roll your ankles. Maybe come and flop down onto your belly. We're just going to take a couple breaths to unwind from that shape. So I like to point my feet, roll my ankles. All of this is allowed. Just anything that lets you sort of let go of all of that. Oh. So that pose is really, really great for your feet. Really excellent if you deal with plantar fasciitis or if you get foot pain around the heel bone. Stretches the fascia of the bottoms of the feet. So you'll notice that those of us that did the arm stretch only did one side. So I have news. We are going to revisit that pose for another minute and a half. And if the first minute and a half was way too intense, then just start the second minute and a half with us. And if it's too much, even after 10 seconds, then just come out and take a little rest. But if you were doing the arm stretch, you can also just revisit the second side of the arm stretch by sitting down on your bum or sitting on your knees. You don't have to do the toe stretch. But if you're up to revisit it with us, then come back to hands and knees. Start to tuck the toes. My little pinky toes always need a little personal invitation. Perfect. And we're going to find our way into the second side. So just like we did before, send some weight back. And if this is the second, obviously this is our second trip into this shape, and you want to do it a little gentler this side, that's cool. Do that. If you're more worried about getting the second side of the arm stretch in, then you can skip the toes. Come back to sitting on your bum, whatever you need. Find your way up. Or stay forward. So I always take a few seconds just to settle into the shape. Make sure it feels okay and right in my body. And then the arms are something I add last. So if you're adding the arms, you're going to hold the strap in your left hand. So take that left hand up above, bring the hand behind, and then reach back to the bottom part of the strap and pull down a little to stretch your elbow up. And take some deep, slow breaths. We're only here for a few more breaths. Less is fine. If you need to come out of this pose sooner, do it. Last moment. When you're ready, bring the strap down. If you were using it, this is going to feel so good to come out of. Bring your hands forward. Oh, come out of the toes. And when you're out of the toes, oh, drum your feet on the floor if that feels good. It feels really good. Scrunch and release your toes, roll your ankles, whatever feels good. We are going to be moving to our belly for the next pose. So make your way down to your belly, please. Have some goodies within reach in case you need props for the next shape. I'm going to bring my timer to the other side of my mat with me. Oops. It went away. There we go. So our next pose, for those of you that are familiar, is Sphinx pose. So we're going to be doing this pose 2 times. The first time in a more classic way, and the second time with a choice of variations. So we're going to go through that together. But for starters, find your way down onto your belly. If you have some firm folded blankets or a firm pillow or a couple pillows you can stack up under your elbows, you may want those handy. If you have yoga blocks, you might want those handy. Come down to the front. And you want to find a spot where your elbows are right underneath your shoulders. And I also just made a quick adjustment with my hips that's worth mentioning. So when I first lay down, I get a little squish between sort of the front of my belly and my pelvis. So I have habitually learned to sort of lift one leg, slide that knee back, lift the other leg, slide that knee back, and it just flattens the front of my pelvis a little. So for positioning your arms for this shape, most of us make the mistake of having the elbows too wide, in which case we're going to flop down, or the elbows are too far back, where if you let go of any tension in your shoulders, you're just going to sort of fall forward. What you want to do is have the elbows right underneath, so that the bone right here in your upper arm is straight up and down and is supporting you, so you can let go of your chest and let go of your head, and you're still supported, almost like this was sort of tent pegs or spikes. If you're not sure of your positioning, err on the side of bringing them a little further forward, because that'll still be better for support. So you want to find your version of this shape, and then you want to experiment with letting go of your chest and your head. So melt your heart and let your head go. Then you want to see what it feels like in your lower back. So that's the part of the body we're targeting with this shape, is the low back. You want to feel a little bit of pressure, especially as you breathe. You want to inhale, feel the pressure lessen. And exhale as your low back gets deeper and closer to the ground. You should feel the pressure deepening. So it is meant to feel like pressure, but it shouldn't feel sharp or stabbing or burning or electrical. And then if you want to feel more, if you're like, that feels really good, I want it to be deeper, that's when you would prop up your elbows onto a couple of pillows or onto a yoga block under each elbow. That deepens the pose quite a bit. And then you again let go. If you're letting the head go and that feels too intense on the back of the neck or the muscles between the shoulder blades, then you could bend the elbows and rest your chin or your cheekbones in your hand. So you have some support for your head. So these are all excellent variations, and you're going to choose the one that feels good. So today for me, I don't want to elevate my elbows. I tried it and I'm like, no, it's too intense. So you choose your version. And now we're going to settle into stillness. And again, notice the exhale. Notice the way the pose changes as you breathe. So when you breathe in, that pressure in the back lessens. When you breathe out, it deepens. Take one last deep breath here. And then usually it feels really good to get a little lower down. Ugh. So wiggle your hips a little side to side. Maybe bring your forehead to your hands or the side of your head to your hands, your cheek. And just rock the hips a little side to side. For some people, it would feel really good to press up to hands and knees and take a child's pose. So knees wider than the hips, big toes together, hips back, and just melt down. Sometimes that feels really good to sort of stretch the low back. So choose what would feel nice and just take several breaths into that space. And then when you're ready, start to find your way back into laying on your belly. This time have a blanket or a big fluffy towel that you got rolled into a tube shape. So I'll show you how we're going to have that handy. I'm going to put my hair up because it was a distraction in the last pose. So I'm going to use one of these skinny bolsters to mimic that shape. But obviously these are not super common. Any rolled up blanket or towel into this kind of a shape is going to do the job, preferably something a little firmer. So take some time, grab one of your blankets, or if you have a pillow, you can sort of bunch up into this kind of a shape. It'll work just fine. You may not even find that you need this. I'm going to show the next pose with and without it, so you can see how it's different. This is one of those poses where we're going to feel a little smushy in the front of the body, particularly those of us with larger breasts. So keep that in mind. But let me show you the general shape. And I'm going to show you, if I can, let's see if the camera will pick it up. I'm going to try to show you facing you first so you can kind of see what we're doing. And then we'll face away. So we're going to be starting lying on the belly just like we did in the last pose with that Sphinx pose. But in this one, we're going to take a variation to get into that spot between the shoulder blades. So we start from, I'm going to just bring my feet up because I don't want a space behind me. Yeah, this will show. Okay. So we start in this Sphinx shape. And then what we're going to do is turn one hand each direction. So I've got one hand facing that wall and one hand facing that wall. And then you start to like cross your arms. And you see what I mean about how smushy it can get? So you really wiggle them apart and you're going to melt down. This is going to stretch the backs of the shoulders. And we're going to let the head go. Now I find it's nice to take a cheek to one of these arms rather than straight down where I feel like I'm going to smother myself. But your body might be a little different. So this is the way to use or do this pose without anything underneath the armpits. The other option is to grab your rolled up towel or blanket. And what I like to do is use it to push my breasts back. So I roll it under, push my breasts back with it a little bit, and then I do this business in front. I can't do it as deeply, but I have the support under my armpits and I can let my head go and I don't feel as suffocating. You might try either of these versions and figure out that you like one better than the other and it might surprise you which one. But for me, I enjoy this more without the bolster, without this support. So you do you, but try both ways. See which feels the most comfortable or spacious in your body, and that's the one we're going to do. So it doesn't matter which arm you put in front because we're going to do both sides. This is our last pose before Shavasana. So let's settle in. And what I'm going to do is cue you at the halfway point of the pose so that we can actually turn turn our cheek the other way. Actually, no, we'll stay one cheek. We'll just do one full side, and then we'll switch. So whatever side you bring in front, doesn't matter. Thread your arms into the shape, and then either let your head go forward, chin can rest on your upper arm, or you can turn your cheek to the side, and my chin just nestles right in there. It may not feel like a whole lot at first, but then as you hold the pose, there's some passive stretch happening in that upper back area. Remember, it's normal for this to feel a little awkward, very pretzel-y. This feels very much like a yoga pose we might laugh at a little bit because it's so pretzel-y. But settle in, notice your breath. Because we're on the belly, you may notice some pressure in your low back as well, and that's perfectly fine. That's the same kind of pressure we look for in this Sphinx pose that we did before. Most importantly, try to notice when you're tensing around a shape, when you feel your body parts just sort of gripping, and consciously soften and let go of that gripping. Try to keep your mind on the present moment. Notice what your body's feeling, your breath. And if your mind is particularly busy, try to notice again the spaces between each thought. Even just trying to find those spaces can help the mind just to settle a little bit. Last big breath. To come out of this pose, you're going to come up slowly, but before you do, notice which hand is which side. So I've got my left arm in the very front. I'm going to remember that because we want to switch sides for the next side. So slowly come out of this pose. I like to get one arm out, usually my front arm, press into that hand, and then slowly slide out the bottom arm, and then it might feel good just to go full up. Or maybe you want to bring the arms behind, palms up. Or maybe you want to do something else entirely. This just feels really good to me. Last couple breaths, just unwinding from the first side. And when you're ready, we're going to switch. So come back to elbows underneath you. And when you're ready, we're going to switch. So I had my I had my right arm. See, I already lost track. I think it was this. So I had my left arm in front last time. This time I want my right arm in front. So I'm going to come into the shape just like before. And this time I'm going to rest my right cheek. So I'm going to have my head turned to the back. And if you're like really bumping into your chest here, you can use your hands to press your chest back a little as you bring the first arm over and then the other arm in front. It's fine if you're not as low to that. Like I've got my arms quite far into this shape. Your arms might be way less far into this shape. You might be up high. And that might still be all the stretch you need. So remember, it might not be as low. Same pose. Find your version, squish and move any body parts you need to, and then settle in. Notice the body. Notice the breath. Last long moment. When you're ready, start to slowly press your way out of the shape. Take your time. Oh. And so our very last pose is our resting pose, our Shavasana. So find your way into whatever final pose you want. Now, I'm going to offer one option that might feel really good because we've been pressuring this sort of low back area, and there's a little modification to lying on your back that can feel really good. So I'll show you that, and we'll settle into our last couple minutes in this practice, just resting and sort of integrating everything we've experienced. So kind of lying on your back. And if you'd like to do whatever you did in the beginning of the class for your variation, that's totally fine. But if you want to try this, you don't need much in the way of props. I'll show you how to set it up. So you'll come lying back to your back, however you want to get there. And the biggest difference is that you bend your knees, feet flat. And the idea is that you're going to want to bring the tops of your thighs together while you take your feet apart. So how it looks for me is I walk my feet nice and wide, right to or even off the edge of the mat. And I roll my thighs towards each other so that my legs are holding each other up. This does two things. It relaxes the legs, especially when we feel like the legs are going to fall open. And it sort of opens and creates space in this lower back sacrum area. So if that feels comfy, that might be a nice way to spend your Shavasana. And if it doesn't, then any other version of lying on your back, maybe you want to lie on your belly instead. But any version of lying down lets you just settle into breath. That lets you notice the effects of your practice today. Come back to the fullness and the smoothness in your breath. And if the breath feels a little rough or a little sticky, then come back to consciously smoothing it out. Let the back of the body sink deeply into the ground. And let the front of the body open and move freely with the breath. notice that when the mind wanders, sometimes the breath gets short. And just cultivate a deep breath. And we'll take one last deep breath in this space. So without rushing, start to invite some movement into your body, a little bit at a time. If you were in that shape with the knees together, the feet apart, walk your feet under the knees and start to rock your knees, maybe side to side. Maybe in your body, you really like hugging the knees in close, holding the backs of the thighs or the fronts of the shins and rocking on your back. Maybe that doesn't feel so good in your body. You get to decide, but just wake the body up a little bit. Maybe a big stretch, arms overhead, legs long. Whoa. Then knock over all your stuff. No, just kidding, that's what I did. And then when you're ready, roll yourself over to one side. And just like we did in the beginning, we want to be nice and slow. Press your way up to a comfortable, tall seat. So any sitting position is cool. You can kneel, you can sit with your feet together, your knees apart, you can cross your legs, but just sit up really, really tall. Stack your shoulders over your wrists, over your hips. Stack your shoulders over your hips. And then sit up tall. And take a nice big inhale, roll your shoulders up to your ears. As you exhale, take them back and slide them down. Lengthen up. And with your next exhale, tip your head forward, chin towards your chest, and bring your hands, palms together, thumbs lightly against your heart. And so closing today's practice with deep gratitude for ourselves for making this very special time for self-care. Gratitude for this practice of yoga and for each other. Namaste. Thank you all so much. I know some of you have been practicing with me all through July, and I think that's incredible. And if you're trying this for the first time, or you've tried it when we did Skype and tried it when we did Facebook Live and finally landed on YouTube, no matter what the situation is, I'm so grateful and happy to have you all with me. Being able to share what feels like a very personal practice with you in this way has been really, really enjoyable and rewarding and feels awesome. So moving into August, because of vacations and other things, I have 5 total classes on the books. You can see the calendar on my website at fatyogini.com in the Practice Yoga section. And you can also view those dates. I'm trying to keep a Facebook event for each class as well for Body Positivity Yoga Live in August. Classes are $10. Just register for the one that you want. Remember that as soon as I get a chance and YouTube is finished processing the class after each live class, I send a notification to everybody who viewed live or who registered for the live class so that you can watch it again and again on your own time. And I haven't put a cap on that at all, so it just stays viewable to you. And if you have any questions about poses we did or you have requests for your next class, hit me up. My email is lisa@fatyogini.com. You can obviously find me also on Facebook at Fat Yogini and here on YouTube. So thanks so much, everybody, and have a great rest of your day. Bye!